I know it's easier said than done, but it's quit caring.
Yeah.
And I'm telling myself this, quit caring what other people are doing. It doesn't matter what other people are doing. They're not paying your mortgage. They're not taking care of your family. Yeah. They're not doing those things. So what does it matter? Why does it matter what Tyler's producing?
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah.
For me personally.
Yeah.
Right. So that's when the dog days hit for me, is when I start looking at outside things that I have no control over, and I start comparing myself. So Tyler, did you know there's two types of people in this world?
I think there's more than two, but yeah.
There's only two.
There's only two.
There's people who wait till after Thanksgiving to put up their Christmas decorations, and then there's complete psychopaths.
Yep,
those are the two kind of people.
I'll jump on this train with you. I agree.
How many people? I don't remember this growing up. How many lights did you see before Thanksgiving? They were everywhere in my neighborhood.
Yeah. So. And like where we live, there's a bunch of firefighters that have these like lighting.
That's another weird new trend. I feel like firefighters.
I appreciate that, right? Because they're typically on 24 hours, off 48, so they're creating a business. Man,
Good for them.
I appreciate the hustle.
Yeah.
And I mean, you think about it, right? It's kind of smart because if someone falls off, they're already there to take care of each other. Because, but yeah, no, like literally, they start. A buddy of ours does it. And they start before Halloween.
Yeah.
Putting lights up.
That's actually, I do remember now that I think about it. That's insane.
Yeah. But I mean, some of these guys, I mean, from a volume standpoint, they'll make more in a 2-month period putting up Christmas lights than they do as a firefighter all year.
Well, we got a quote and I was like, I'm not paying that.
You're tripping. I know.
But to your point, we had to book this like beginning of November because they said we're booking up for the rest of the season.
Yep. Yeah, it's insane, dude. It's insane. But then also, and I know where you stand because you love Thanksgiving, right?
Yes. It's disrespectful to Thanksgiving to start doing it.
I would concur.
Thank you.
I'm
all right, podcast over. See you guys next time.
solved all the world's problems. But I married a psychopath, as you describe it, to where my wife, not kidding you, will start playing Christmas music in August.
Wow.
Because she loves this season so much. Like, so much.
And that's fine. Yeah. Love it all you want, but let's give Thanksgiving some breathing room, please.
No, I'm with you there. But from a decoration standpoint, like this is what you're talking about, is she would do it before Halloween. Like, she would do like mid-October.
Wow.
Like if I let her, she would do it for her birthday present, like in September, September 23rd. That's what she would do. And it's like, and look, I understand because it brings this inner kid out of you. It brings hope. It brings joy. It brings I love everything that it represents. But like for me, usually about 2.5, 3 weeks in, it just kind of right? Yeah. It loses its luster a little bit, right? Like the season.
I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit of a Grinch.
I don't think anybody that has listened to this show would argue with you.
Throw up a tree and I'm good.
That's
fine with me.
Okay, so here's a question, and it's funny. My great-grandma, not my great-grandma, my kid's great-grandma, my grandma, who's 94 years old, savage, absolute savage.
Anybody's a savage that lives to their 90s.
Yeah, and you would think that she flew out here by herself. Like you would think that she was, 65. Yeah. It's awesome. But my daughter was asking a bunch of questions about the holidays, and I was like pretty impressed, like about the questions that she was asking. But one of them was, okay, what's your favorite thing about the holidays? What's your least favorite thing about the holidays? And this got that conversation going about decorations. And my wife's favorite thing is decorating the Christmas tree, setting it all up. And I'm like, that day is like my nightmare because it's funny. You love it so much. And she truly does. And she does such a good job, but it is the most stressful days. Like there's only one other day that is more stressful. And that is Christmas card picture day.
Oh, gosh.
We're taking.
You guys do get your cards out early. Really early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It helps it. My mother-in-law is a photographer.
That's true.
So like we can do it whenever, wherever, and usually it's just super early. But my answer was my least favorite thing about the holidays is pulling down the decorations from the attic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That is my least favorite thing about the whole holidays. So I'll push it. That's why I fight it so much. It's like, I don't want to climb up in the attic in Texas in October.
You know, an unintentional game changer for us has been we don't have really attic space in our new house. It's really weird. It doesn't have attic space. So we got one of those in your garage, those little shelf things that you hang from the ceiling. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Like
Safe
you get
space.
at Costco and gets it up off of the ground.
So all our Christmas decorations. So that thankfully was much easier.
We had that. We had that at our last house, and it was really nice.
It's much easier.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm glad we've settled.
Yes.
That you're a complete psychopath if you try to decorate.
Before
now, again, I'm all for Christmas. It's an awesome holiday.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but give Thanksgiving its respect and don't start decorating until December.
Well, and here's what it is. To me, right? It's a correlation, and here's another Christmas analogy. It's as a kid, the surprise and awesomeness of opening up a present Christmas morning, right? It's like, dude, this is great. Like, I get to enjoy all of it right now. Like, I want to wait till it's time and then open the present. Or are you the kid that gets a little bit excited when you sneak your presents the second week of December, right? And you see what you're going to get, right? Okay, that's cool. But you don't really get to enjoy the full feeling by waiting and being patient and doing it in due time.
Yeah, Cooper snooped in our closet the other day and found some of his presents. So to your exact point,
the twins are the worst. It's that age, dude. Yeah, they're the worst.
It is. Well, that's not our topic today, but I'm glad we settled that. And before we do jump into our topic, I do want to thank Sleep Number. We've mentioned this before. We just got our beds a month ago, and again, I know people hearing this.
Well, you did.
Yeah, that's right.
I think I'm only 2 or 3 weeks in.
Yeah, so it's been about a month for me, and I know people are going to not believe me when I say this, but I literally can't remember sleeping through the night more than I have this last month. Now, that could be coincidence. I think it's actually the actual product, though. The mattresses they've made, the technology that they've implemented, the cool little nerdy sciencey stuff. If you're at all a nerd, you will love the Sleep Number 360 smart beds. It gives you all of this feedback the next day. It gives you a sleep score. The actual mattress itself is the most, and it's custom, right?
Yeah.
Each side of the bed is customized for whatever preference. You can have it more firm, you can have it softer, whatever your preference is. Instead of just being stuck with one, like old dumb mattresses. It's the Tesla of mattresses. So
it is.
Get yourself to a Sleep Number, sleepnumber.com, or they have retail stores all over the country. Go get yourself a Sleep Number. Again, it's a VIP experience, a customized experience. And we are very grateful to Sleep Number for their partnership. But
no, very much so. And just one real life story is I've had kind of a head cold. It's not the 19, but I've had a little bit of a head cold. Don't say the full word.
We'll get
canceled. And so one of the things is like, you know, when you've got a head cold, you just kind of drain, right? When you normally sleep flat, all it does, you just get congested and you wake up and you feel terrible. Well, literally one night I was asleep still because it's so comfortable, and Tiff propped me up because she could tell like I wasn't breathing real well. So she propped me up and she was like, it went away like that and you slept. And I was like,
that's phenomenal.
I woke up actually feeling so much better.
Wow.
And again, your partner can do it, you can do it, but it's just the flexibility that it provides in ways that, okay, hey, it's going to serve my need that I need tonight. Every day is different, right? Whatever you put your body through that day, it's different every day. And sometimes you may need to elevate your legs because you had a hard workout. Yeah. Or sometimes you may need to prop up because you've got congestion. Sleep Number 360 bed.
That's
perfect.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's also that neck meat you got. Just clogging your
true.
esophagus.
That's true.
So it's good to know that a Sleep Number is literally saving your life. That's good.
It is, yeah.
If you don't want to stop lifting weights, at least the Sleep Number can prop you up. So anyway, sleepnumber.com, go get yourself to the store. But to the topic we wanted to talk about today, and that's the topic of it, and I'll make the analogy you hear in baseball, right? You hear the phrase, the dog days of summer. And it's this concept where, you know, baseball season starts in the spring. Side note, baseball is such a long season. It's crazy how long it is. But because of that, right, you started out in the spring, everybody's super pumped, excited for a new year, everybody's got a chance, right? Then you slowly get into the summer months, weather's a lot hotter, season's been dragging on, right? The slowdowns, the fatigue starts to hit for these players, right? The dog days of summer start to hit. And then obviously the fall comes in, weather starts to cool down. Playoffs are in sight, right? They get rejuvenated and finish off the year strong. So that concept is also a lot like any goal that you want to set out for, right? I always had this perception that, man, if I'm after something and it's something that I really, really want, it's just going to be great from beginning to end. Until I accomplish that goal, there's going to be no downtime. There's going to be no lack of motivation. It's going to be awesome 100% of the time. And what a naive thing to think that it's always going to be roses and rainbows no matter what or how passionate you are starting out.
Yep.
And so that's been the realization for me in just different areas of my life. I think about fitness, that's been the case, right? Super excited about a brand new goal. I get towards the finish line, right? Or maybe somewhere in the middle there, it starts to lull a little bit. I think about this podcast even, right? We started out and we've been doing this for almost 2 years now, and it's been, a blast, right? We've learned so much. It's been great. But there's even been a little bit of a downtime for this of, maybe it's a lack of motivation. So it's just, anyway, that's been on my mind lately. I would love to hear your thoughts because of your experience and the things that you've gone through of how do you stay motivated during the dog days, we'll call it, of when things are you're just not feeling it. You're not feeling that motivation for whatever reason.
Yeah. Yeah. So a couple things, and I 100% agree is there's dog days in almost every phase of life. I think of on a micro level, right? Like dog days and a goal, right? It's like, or dog days within a day that 2 to 4 o'clock, right? It's like, I gotta move through it. A job. It's like, okay, I've been doing it for 3 years. It's not brand new. So I'm not in this learning phase and excitement and all this, I've got it down. Now it's just continuing to grow. Right. Whether it's like you said, fitness, I think of it in a year. If you look at a calendar year, you look at typically that, let's look at it as school year, like that February, March, April. It's just kind of like that time of year. You're just if you're a student, it's just oh man, I'm not real close to finals. The summer is still a ways away. I'm not super motivated, but how do you keep yourself going? And I agree with you, with the podcast here, we really excited and we're going, and there's a lot going on. We're super passionate about this. And one of the things, and I'll start here on the podcast, is one of the things that I think we have been doing, and you have done a great job about this, is just reminding me what our goal is and what our mission is. Our mission here is not, hey, build this thing up to 1 million downloads an episode. That's not it. It's truly just to be something for someone. Mm-hmm. Be able to be an outlet that they can be encouraged, an outlet that they can learn something, an outlet that they can laugh because there's a bunch of idiots on the other side of it, whatever it may be, but be something for someone. And that is it, right? As you're going through these dog days, when you have these goals, typically January 1st, everyone creates these year goals, right? By the end of the year. That's great, right? But you can't build a goal and just leave it at that. And we've talked about this. You've got to break it down, and so that you're hitting and you're celebrating victories along the way. Mm-hmm. You break it down. Okay. In 1 year, let's just use a podcast. In 1 year, we want to make sure that we're reaching, we go from X number of downloads to Y number of downloads, right? But along the way, how do we get there? Okay, we've increased this. We've provided interaction with the client, with the listeners this way, or we do this along the way, so that we're celebrating those wins along the way. Because I know the three of us, at least, we're motivated by the scoreboard. We're athletes, right? We want to keep score. We want to be able to measure the growth somehow. So figure out a way to set minor goals that you can, point, right? And it's like in baseball. It's okay. You can look at the schedule, and then you could take it down to phases of, all-star, pre-all-star break, post-all-star break. Okay, there's that one. Okay, now we're going to look at it in series. Okay, now we're going to look at it in the game. Mm-hmm. Now we're going to look at it as an inning, and then now you're going to look at it with the batter that's up to play. Okay, is the pitcher winning? Okay, boom, I'm up in the count. Mm-hmm. You could take it down to really small levels, so that, you're actually progressing. And I struggle doing that sometimes. And I know that I need to and I don't want to say fabricate, but I know that I need to create scenarios where it's like, all right, we're making progress. In this time that feels like no progress is being made, I'm a zombie just going through the motions. Like, I need to know and be motivated to, okay, I've got to hit this. I've got to hit that. That's why the successful fitness plans, right, is they do, yes, like, here's your end goal. But within that, we're going to do this programming, we're going to do this programming, we're going to do this programming. And within it, it's, okay, within this programming, we may do a 8-rep max, and then we may do a 5-rep max, and then we may do a 3-rep max, and we may do a 1-rep max, all within that 6-week programming period. The successful programs are not built as one goal, it's stages. And for myself, I know it really helps when you're in the period where you're just unmotivated. You just don't want to get up and you don't want to go. Like, for me, I look at my workout, and I'm like, all right, cool. Like, today I get to compete with myself because I know that I had a PR at this, whatever this exercise was 2 months ago. I got to beat it today.
Yeah, no, it's that concept of, and this is easier said than done, but it's that concept of, look, I don't know how I'm going to make it through the next 6 months, but I know that I can make it through today.
Yeah.
I know that I can do this workout today.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know how I can't see. I'm so tired. I can't see how I'm going to make the next 10 workouts.
Yeah.
But at least I know that I can put in and I can go and I can show up today. You know, another thing that you said, and I think a struggle for me is the whole comparison thing.
Yeah.
And I think the dog days hit for me when I start comparing myself to others. So I think of our day job, our real estate job. If I just looked at my production this year, for instance, in a vacuum, I've had a good year, right? And a quote unquote,
Which,
a top.
by the way, congrats on
thank you.
top producer.
Thank you. Right. So if I look at that in a vacuum, I think, okay, I was a top producer. I achieved this metric that our company has stated is the goal for everybody else, right? Yeah. Everybody should have this goal every single year. So I've achieved that goal. So in my mind, if I just look at it in a vacuum, I've had a good year. But what I do is I think, well, I haven't had as good a year as Tyler, or I haven't had as good a year as Darren, or I haven't had as good a year as so-and-so. So my year sucks, right? Yeah. So that's when the dog days hit for me, is when I start comparing what I'm doing with what other people are doing.
Yeah.
And I've learned, and this podcast has really helped me learn this, is it's, you can't do that, right? And again, I know it's easier said than done, but it's quit caring.
Yeah.
And I'm telling myself this, quit caring what other people are doing. It doesn't matter what other people are doing. They're not paying your mortgage. They're not taking care of your family. Yeah. They're not doing those things. So what does it matter? Why does it matter what Tyler's producing? Yeah. It doesn't. Yeah. For me personally.
Yeah.
Right. So that's when the dog days hit for me, is when I start looking at outside things that I have no control over, and I start comparing myself to those other things.
And that's so true. And one thing I do appreciate, at least in the workplace, over the last decade or so, is there's been an emphasis on culture. There's been an emphasis on leadership. We had a company come in and speak to us yesterday at our real estate job, and they literally are carrying like major overhead positions just on culture and leadership. Like, not producing any revenue for the company, but they're spending money at salaries on people that go in and just create better culture and leadership. And recognize, this guy, I feel like he's kind of in a slump, or the dog days or whatever. We got to help pull him out. That's all great. And I appreciate that, like I said. But to your point, is we've got to take accountability. We can't wait for someone else to come along and pull us out of that. Is we've got to take accountability. And like you said, nobody is putting food on the table for our family. Nobody else is going to be the motivation for our kids. And nobody else is going to come in and interact and lead and love your kids. It's on us. Yeah. It's on us to do it. So we get in those phases, and it's real. Like, for you to deny that, hey, we don't have lulls and we don't go through dog days, and I'm just super fired up and I love what I do all the time. You're an anomaly. Yeah. If that really is you're an anomaly.
Yeah, and I don't think it is. And I think that's the hard part of social media, is we see the best of everybody. Yeah. And so or at least I constantly think, like, these people never have issues or problems. They never have bad days. They're constantly fired up 100% of the time, and that's just not reality. Yeah. They're just not putting that out there. And I'm curious, David, I want to bring you in on this because of, we introduced you last week as in your company and in your business and what you're doing and how fired up you were to start your own thing. So I want to get to that in a second. But before we get there, I do want to thank another sponsor of ours in a place where there are no dog days.
No,
I can guarantee you 100% of the time there's no dog days at this place. And it's Choctaw Casino and Resort. Their brand new expansion, 3,000 new slot machines, brand new restaurants, new resort style pool, which you can't really enjoy right now because it's not summertime. But just the new hotel expansion, the concert venue. Yeah. It truly is one of those places where you get to forget about everything else for a little bit, right? You get to go up there, you get to have a great time, let your hair down, forget about the kids, reconnect with your spouse, whatever it is, whatever your goal is for going up there. It truly is a great place to just be yourself and have fun and let loose. And the great thing about it is, especially if you're here in DFW, it's the shortest drive possible to be able to accomplish all of those things. It really is a vacation that's only an hour away.
Yeah. I just had a conversation with a good friend, and their parents went, and they said, "Hey, don't you guys do stuff with them?" And I was like, "Yeah." Like, dude, my parents just went, and they were blown away at how nice it was. They had no idea.
Yeah.
And I was like, apparently you don't listen to the podcast, or you don't believe us.
Yeah, look, I've said this 100 times before. I am not a casino person. I don't. When I think of fun, I don't think of I'm going to go gamble my money away. That's not what I think about. However, Choctaw Casino and Resort is different. Yes, you can go gamble and you can go do all that, but there's so many different other offerings up there. So it truly is a great time, no matter who you are, no matter what your personality is that you're listening to this. It is an awesome time.
You know what the problem is? You're just not committed to being good at gambling.
Well, I hate people. I've said that a million times before as well. So being in an environment with people is just not fun for me. So anyway,
there you go.
Choctaw Casino and Resort, get yourself up there. But David, I want to bring you in on this. I want to hear your opinion because you started your company, Snacks Media, and you started, I'm sure, jacked up, on fire. This is going to be the greatest thing ever. You've now been doing it for, remind me, 3 years now? 4 years?
3 years.
3 years now. I've got to think in these 3 years there's been some dog days for you. There's been some times where you've wondered, man, is this really what I want to be doing? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are stretches where, being the boss, it's not like you have a set salary.
Yeah.
So there's some scarce months here and there where it's like, man, that salary was pretty nice when I had it.
Mm-hmm. The security.
Yeah, the security was pretty nice. But I mean, I listened to a bunch of podcasts. That's how I found y'all. And, they always say just keep trucking.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what I've done so far.
Right.
We're still nowhere close to out of the woods, which I don't know if entrepreneurs ever really feel totally out of the woods because there's always
when you
some
sell
type
and then
of fire.
when you sell your company and then you get this overwhelming like, why did I sell? Like now what do I do?
Yeah. But internally, David, I'm curious, is it literally like internally in your mind, you're thinking, okay, well, Andy Frisella told me to do this, so I'm going to do this. Or, the Darren Woodson show encouraged me in this way. So, or internally, are you telling yourself something? Like, what are you telling yourself internally when you aren't feeling it, when those times do hit where you're like, man, this is just not, like, this isn't as exciting anymore as what I thought it was. What are you telling yourself in those times?
I think it's somewhat of a muscle where like I used to go on YouTube and try to find motivational videos, but motivation is fleeting and discipline is forever.
Yes.
I don't know. But I feel like that muscle has started to be like, okay, you have to do this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like when it was just me, it was a lot easier to be like, I'll get that task done later.
Yeah.
And now it's like, no, you gotta hit payroll.
Yeah.
And there's no excuses.
Yeah.
And the pressure helps, not get into as many dog days because it's like every day is every day you're grinding.
That's a great point actually, because you don't have a choice to say I don't feel like doing this or this isn't exciting. Like you've got people counting on you. So that's a huge motivator for you. Tyler, I think of your story when you were, chasing the NFL dream. You had your wife counting on you, but nobody was really else affected by that. So in David's scenario, and that, I love what you said, like motivation is fleeting. Discipline, though, is what sticks you through. I couldn't agree with that more, because there are going to be these spurts where we are motivated, quote unquote, but that's not always going to be the case.
Yeah.
So like Tyler, for you, I'm thinking of your scenario, David, you've got the outside pressure of providing for families, literally feeding families that rely on you, and that's great. Tyler, for you, where nobody was depending on you other than your wife, what were you telling yourself at 11 p.m. after you finish your bar shift and you're thinking, dang, I still got to go get a workout in tonight?
Yeah, you know what is when you said this, it really sparked something. Is those times, it brought me back to those dog days of chasing the dream, right? Is I remember in being in those times, and there's a point where it's like kind of this like bell curve, right? It's like, okay, it's good. It goes down. I'm feeling terrible about myself. I start to feel sorry for myself, start to think about quitting. And then it would hit. It would be like, no, like these are the times that I'm going to get better, stronger, more disciplined. And it gave me this boost of energy at that point, because it was like, no, like this is what is going to make me who I am, whether I make it to the NFL or not. But like, this is a part of the dream. And there was like this pride that just kind of came in at that point. It was like, oh. Like,
so did you literally have that conversation in your head of, hey, guess what? This time that I'm suffering through right now is actually going to be the time I'm going to look back. So you had actually had that verbal conversation.
And so to like take it to training. And this was something that, and I would have to do it at this point, because it made sense to me, because I loved it. Like getting to go train, right? Like waking up is like, I'm not really excited to go do this, stadium workout at Fresno State with the team. At this point, it was what I knew. And then I'd get out there, and then the more it would hurt, the more endorphins would go and more motivation I had. Because then it was like, all right, it was almost a drug, almost.
That's
right?
Interesting.
Where it's like, all right, like the more I hurt, the better it is. And like, that's what I've found that I've loved in CrossFit, is it pushes me to a place where in my head, it says, I'm going to quit. Stop. Your body hurts. And then you hear that voice, and you're like, oh, okay, here we go. Now is when I start to get better.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you get into these dog days, when it's like, oh man, I just don't want to do this anymore, I'm unmotivated. And it's like, wait a minute, this is now the growth starts to happen. And then there's that extra boost of energy.
So how do you train yourself to get there? Because that's so counterintuitive what you think, because you're exactly right. Because now I'm thinking of times where I was the same way. It's so counterintuitive to think the pain is actually what I need to press into.
Yeah.
I need to seek out the pain, because I know that the pain is going to result in a better outcome.
Right.
Whereas the natural reaction is I want to avoid the pain.
Yeah.
That's just a human tendency.
I want to avoid. It's a mental battle, right? Is your mind can either be very weak or it could be very strong. Your body has more than enough capability to accomplish the task. Right? Your body is much stronger. It's your mind is going to quit much before your body does.
Yeah, way before.
And
so how do we train our mind to be stronger then?
Right. I say this a lot, is you've got to be aware of the language that you're talking yourself with, right? The words that you're saying to yourself, that internal dialogue. You've got to recognize it, because a lot of times, and me, I'm guilty of this at times too, is that it's very much like it's not a recognizable voice. It's a background that you just believe, right? Is the truth. It just like, okay, when you're driving and like your navigation just says here, and you just like mindlessly like click your blinker on, you turn and you go on this off ramp, and then you turn this left. You're just kind of like going through it. Whereas like, no, I gotta recognize what it's telling me to do, what my body and mind are telling me to do. And I've got to hear that. And that is that in line with what I really truly believe? Because instead of just like blindly following what the internal dialogue is telling you to do, it's like, hold on. No, that doesn't meet up with the goals that I've established. And so it does take training, it does take time, but man, like when you recognize it and you're like, no, I'm not falling for it this time. there is a boost of energy.
Yeah.
And it really does make a difference in pushing through those hard times.
Yeah, I think this is such a good point that you're saying about appreciating the dog days. Yeah, it sucks and it's not fun, but at the same time, it is what makes the end result feel that much better.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, I need to push through this because it's just part of the deal. Like, it's just unavoidable. And
It's the separation part, right? It's where, like, okay, this is when everybody else that's at the same level to me, 99% of their minds are telling them to quit. This is too hard. This is boring. I'm whatever, right? Go do something else. Well, this is where you gain ground on the competition. When you recognize it and say, okay, my body or my mind's telling me to quit. I'm not happy. This isn't fun anymore. All right. Everybody else is hearing the same thing in their head too.
Yeah.
They're going to listen to it. I'm not going to. I'm going to make up some ground on all these people.
Yeah. No, that's good. Yeah, I think just a couple of practical things. And again, this is not me saying, hey, this is what you should do. This is just what I do. I think practically speaking, when I do feel this, is I do a couple of things. I do, like David said, I actually do go seek outside inspiration. What are some people that have been there before? How did they get through it?
Yeah.
And I'll listen to a podcast or I'll watch a YouTube video or, I'll do some, I'll try to find these moments of motivation because there are moments.
Yeah.
And I'll try to think, okay, how can I draw inspiration? Who else has been here and felt this before? How can I draw on with this? So that's one thing that I do. Another thing that I do is I just think, I'm like you, I have an ego that says, it's that pride of, well, nobody else can accomplish it, but guess what? I'm going to be the one that does. Yeah. And I think you have to have some ego to think that, right? And some pride to think that, yeah, maybe this didn't work out for anybody else, but I'm going to be the one that figures it out. So I think there's some craziness in me that thinks that as well. So I just think, well, I'm going to be the one that's different. I'm going to be the one that does do this. Yeah. And then the other thing I do is sometimes I just grit my teeth and I just do it anyway. Yeah. Right. We've had this conversation before. I don't feel like it. Yeah. Right. I think of scenarios where I didn't feel like doing something. So what? Yeah. I'm just going to do it anyway because I know that I'm going to be happier on the other side. Yeah. And it sucks. And it's hard to get me to, I don't know, for whatever reason, that's just built within me to be able to, I get that's not everybody. Yeah. But there's just certain aspects. Now there's other aspects where I'm not built that way. Yeah. And I do succumb to, I just don't feel like it, so I'm not going to do it. Yeah. But I do think that I've built, for whatever reason, just through life experience, of an ability to more times than not, just because I don't feel it, I'm still going to do it. Yeah.
You bring up, man, okay, you said a couple of things that like triggered some things. And I got to give a shout out to Jamin Roller. And he's the teaching pastor at our church and going through this Advent deal. And he was talking about, there's three things in it, and we're going through James, and it was like the Song of Mary. So this is before she has Jesus, Mary being Jesus' mom. But anyways, he breaks this thing down, and one of the things that he said and he talked about was, in this instant, God celebrates the consistent, quiet obedience, right? And one of the things that's lost in our culture is doing the little things consistently without getting the recognition is a really good thing. Mm. And remind yourself, just because you're not getting the recognition from your superiors, and just because you're not getting the views on social media, just because you're not getting the overall like pat on the back, but you continue to do things right, that's a good thing. Mm. And we forget about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Comparisonitis, right? We start, well, the results aren't here, and look at that person, they're getting the results, so I must be either doing something wrong or this sucks or whatever. But to your point, it's like,
and what's that? And what's that called, David? You said it earlier. When you're doing all the little things right without getting recognition, without getting the accolades, and you just continue to do things the right way.
Delayed gratification.
But you said, right? What is forever?
Oh, discipline.
Discipline, right? Mm. It's a good thing. Like, and if you look in relating it to my faith, like God likes discipline. He likes quiet, consistent obedience. Right? When you're doing things the right way and you're not doing it to preach to 1,000 people and you're not doing it to, hey, I'm doing this. It's like, hey, if you're helping someone and nobody sees it, that's good. If you're waking up in the morning and you're taking care of your body, that this vessel that you've been given, and you're doing things the right way, but nobody else knows, that's good. If you're working and doing the things that you don't have to do, but you're doing them because it helps somebody else, that's good. You don't need to get that gratification or recognition for it to be a really good thing. And guess what? You look 2 years from now, and you look back and you measure the progress that you made because you're doing those small little things quietly, that's a good thing.
Yeah. No, that's good, man. Yeah. No, I think we all go through this at some point.
Yeah.
And that's another point that we said a little bit earlier, but I want to reemphasize is you're not weird. There's nothing wrong with you if you do go through this.
Yeah.
Because we've all been there, no matter how jacked up we are. Again, to your story, I was thinking about your story. Yeah. No matter how jacked up you were about that goal of reaching the NFL, it doesn't mean that those 4 or 5 years it took to get there doesn't mean there weren't times where you thought,
well, even
is this
even after I got there, right? You get there and you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm in the NFL, like I get to do this. Well, guess what? Week 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That Thursday practice when it's third down and you're not super, and I'm not involved as a fullback and I'm doing all scout team and special teams, not a real fun practice.
Yeah.
And there were days that I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
But then you catch yourself and you're like, okay, listen to the voice that says, you know what? Don't volunteer to run the tight end position on scout team, or don't volunteer to be, the running back in this, or hey, don't jump in to be scout team special teams. Right. Like, and I'm like, screw that. Like I worked way too hard. And so the feeling is real and it's there. And just because you are doing what you love, which I loved more than anything at that point, other than my wife and kids, it was like, it's still there.
Yeah.
It's still something that just freaking beats you down.
Yeah, that's really good. That I forget about that is, even though you accomplished that goal, you still had those moments even after that. And it reminds me of the phrase, and it's a really cheesy phrase, but you are living the times that you once prayed for.
Yeah.
And I just think sometimes that resets me of I'm doing things today that 5 years ago I never thought would be possible.
Yeah.
And am I where I want to be? No. And do I still have big goals that I want to accomplish? And I'm probably being 95 thinking, man, I still should have done this or that. But it does reset my perspective of appreciating where I am, understanding that I am in a place that I once dreamed about, and now I have the ability to dream even further and to be able to strive even further. Yeah. So as we wrap this up, do you guys maybe go around and just some closing thoughts, words of encouragement for people that are currently, because I'm being honest, this is where I am right now. I'm in the dog days right now.
Yeah.
So this discussion has been very helpful already in just this past 30 minutes for me. What closing words of encouragement do you guys have for people if they're going through the dog days right now?
Ben, you asked Tyler how he could train himself to kind of get that enlightenment that you felt. And I don't think you can really train yourself for that. I think you have to continually put yourself in uncomfortable situations. Yeah. And then they come.
I would argue that is training.
Yeah.
Putting yourself in those situations. That's a great point. You're consciously thinking, I'm going to put myself in this situation. I'm going to overcome it. That's one more notch on the belt for me for the next time I face something.
So that's from a football,
that's a good point, David.
From a football standpoint, we used to do this a lot. Is you would put yourself in a very hard game type situation.
Yeah.
Okay, get out of it. You have to get out of it. Mm-hmm. Put a consequence on it. You put yourself in this uncomfortable situation that, hey, it's fight or flight here, guys. Like, we got to figure out what to do. And I agree with you, David. I totally agree that it's all about, okay, look, if I put myself in an uncomfortable situation, I have to get out of this or I have to get through this.
Yeah, and I'll just tell a quick story. 2 weeks ago, we went and we're filming this series. It's Cribs, but for golfers. And the plan was to leave at 4 a.m, and flight gets back 1:30 in the morning the next day. Ooh. And it's like, in your head, you're like, yeah, this is not going to be fun. Yeah. But it's like, you just do it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then we get back to the airport at 1:30 in the morning, and I have a flat tire. So then change the flat tire, and on the drive home, I'd never been more fired up that I had started snacks. Because it was like, this is like, in your head, you're like, nobody's doing this except for me.
Yeah.
Which people are, but like, those are the situations that I dreamed about 2 years ago when I started, was going to golfers' houses and
Oh, that's awesome.
filming it. And the flat tire was just kind of like funny, like, okay.
It's gonna be a good story later.
Yeah.
For sure.
Good for you, man. That's a good story.
Yeah. I think you just mentioned it, is recognize that in those dog days, in those days that it's just really hard to get motivated, is that consistent discipline is good. And that is where you're gaining ground on other people. Find energy in that. Find motivation in that. Because if they're taking a half a step, you're taking a full step. And yeah, when you look at it and you do the comparison thing and you look at it, like today, I may not be that far ahead, but guess what? You consistently do that for a year, 2 years, 5 years. Look at the ground that you've gained on that, on your competition.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, my closing thought is that it's just reiterating the blinders mentality, and I'm telling myself this of keep the blinders on. Yes, it's natural to look at other people and see where they are, and it's good in some cases to aspire, you know, based on other people's performances. However, I have the tendency to fixate on other people as opposed to being inspired by them, and that keeps me in the dog days longer than I should.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's keeping those blinders on, making sure I've got my head down. I'm looking up when necessary, but I've got my head down. I'm continuing to put in the effort and the time that it's going to take for me to get to where I want to go, because it doesn't matter what everybody else does. It only matters what effort and the thought and the time that I'm putting in. So,
and lastly, and one other thing is that, honestly, and I hope this doesn't come off as cold and harsh.
I hope it does. Get the people motivated.
But it's real. There's a lot of times that we can start to feel sorry for ourselves. Nobody understands what I'm going through. It's this. They may not understand, but guess what? Nobody else cares.
Fact.
Nobody cares if it's dog days, right? Nobody else is going to just give you something to get you through it. You've got to manifest it yourself. You got to manifest the motivation. You got to manifest the energy. You got to manifest. So take accountability for it. Take responsibility for it. Recognize it. And recognize, look, I'm not alone in this, but I'm alone in this. I'm not the only one that feels this way, but nobody else is going to come in and save the day.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's a great way to end it right there. So we're on social media. We're on YouTube, The Darren Woodson Show. We are on Instagram, @Darren Woodson Show. And then, as always, the best way that you can help us out is by sharing these podcasts. If this did something for you today, if you got something out of this, even if it was a 30-second soundbite that really helped you out, text it to 5 of your friends.
Yeah.
Post it on your social media. That's the best way for this to grow. We appreciate you guys. Leave us a review on the podcast app as well, which is also very beneficial and helpful to us. Guys, we love doing this. We've said this a million times. This isn't our full-time job. We have full-time jobs. We have families, but we love doing this so much. We hope that you guys enjoy it as well. And then again, I'll keep teasing this. We've got a massive, huge announcement coming up. Now we're, 2 weeks away from that announcement?
3.
This
Still first week of December.
Yeah. So, yeah, on the 29th. Yeah.
3.
No, the 30th.
4.
We're making a huge announcement on the 30th. So,
we
are, 3 weeks away.
Come on.
Yeah.
All right. Lots of work between now and then.
That's right.
Let's get it.
Can't wait to tell you guys. So, have a good rest of the week, and we will see you on Monday.